Hello friends, this is Dr. Arvind Zadav and we are learning today very important topic, how to learn words, how to learn vocabulary, and how to deal with words. So we will now enter in the worlds of words. Yes, we have a different kind of perceived worlds and we perceive it through language. So there are different words of the words. So let us begin and explore the what kind of words are these. So first of all, language makes us human, really. How? So are we special creatures? Yes, humans are special in relation to the different things. For example, when we compare to other animals, we can stand and walk on our feet. Then we have a developed brain as compared to other species. Then we have, very importantly, it's very important thing that we have a sophisticated communication system. Not humans have evolved with its brain and other things regarding the straight upward backbone, but also we have very complex dynamic system of communication. We call it as a language. So yes, other animals have such kind of communication systems, but they are very restricted and not so much sophisticated as humans. So for example, if we think of temporal things only, of a time only, we will easily guess how other animals are dealing with time and how humans are dealing with time. So most of the animals, I mean almost no animals than the humans can tell stories. These stories, what I'm conveying, the point is not the actual stories. They can't tell stories, but even they can't even imagine and narrate the past systematically. Humans can go in the past and systematically think of it and even narrate it to the fellow or other fellows. So animal can't even systematically plan, so they can't think of future. Yes, they think, but it's again restricted kind of thing. For example, animals can have a plan about hunting and other things, and but we have so much complex plan, and there are many different plans within the larger plan. We have a whole we have plans for whole life, or some long duration plan for 10 or 15 years or 20 years, or for example we have a annual plan, or we have a weekly plan about everything, I mean. So for example, we have a career plan. So in similarly, we can't think of animals having such kind of complex plans, and about they can't plan about the future. So humans can potentially encode most of their thoughts through the language. It is time is one domain, but humans can encode most of the things. I can't say that everything they think can be encoded. Some of their thoughts cannot be translated to language, but most of the things can be encoded through speech, through writing and other systems of language. So as language makes us human, the words makes language. So words are building blocks of language. How? We will see in this slide. So we think of vocabulary or diction. Many times we heard of the things like vocab. So what exactly the vocabulary is, what is the diction, what are the lexemes and all kind of things. So vocabulary or diction mostly used in the case of poetic diction or literary diction or kind of things. So it's about literature especially. But vocabulary is a general term for body of words in a particular language is a vocabulary. But what about the things like he has a rich vocabulary, we must enrich our vocabulary. In this connection, we are thinking of vocabulary as a body of words and individual possesses. So if we can say that Dr. Shashi Tharoor has a rich vocabulary, for example. So yes, so how words mix language in general? Uh, are they foundational or important phenomena of language? Yes, we'll see. For example, we have a language. Within language, we have a speech event or discourse, can be written discourse or spoken discourse, or even you can think of a work of art. Within that, we have plays, novels, poetry, and everything. So, all these kind of things are made of either paragraphs or stanzas. So, for example, if we have a novel, then it is divided into different paragraphs, of course, in chapters or some paragraphs, and then if it is in case it's poem or poetry, then it is organized with different stanza patterns, and these paragraphs are comprised of different sentences, whereas poetry is comprised of different poetic lines, and within that sentence or poetic line we have different clauses, independent clauses or subordinate clauses. Clauses are a part of sentence which is comprised of phrases, and at the last we see the words. So words, there we have a word as a minimal unit, and then we have a phrase or phrases, then we have clauses, then sentences, paragraphs, and then we go to the language. So if we wanted to excel in any language, the words are definitely important, and many of the people just know that vocabulary is an important component to master. So how to learn words then? To learn language we need words. So how to learn words? Learning a language is learning anything. Yes, for example, previously we have some research stating that we have a different kind of learning patterns, we have different kind of things in our brain, and for learning language we have a different kind of system, and to learn other things comprehensive cognition happens differently. So as a Chomsky, for example, subscribes to the LAD, language acquisition device, and he also further states like a modularity, or in components we learn, we have different components to learn language like that. But now our cognitive science developed in such a way that it uh, states that language learning is like learning anything. Many of the things including language we learn similarly, or most of the brain's parts or centers are used to learn language. So language can be acquired and language can be learned. So this acquisition of language is normally used for the mother tongue or first language, that is L1, and we learn language, any other language than our mother tongue is called as a L2 or second language or foreign language or target language or like that. These are the different terms for the language we learn other than mother tongue. So how we learn? So there are different kind of terms or terminology for the learning language. Like we have a learning, then through training we can learn. It's educating ourselves in particular thing, then mastering or developing skills within the language, like listening and other things. So what is learning? For example, as one of the famous psychologists or particularly behaviorist, B.F. Skinner, says learning is nothing but change in behavior. So while learning we change our behavior. But again we have another psychologist who has done a great work in learning theories, where he says learning does not necessarily change one's behavior. So uh, learning, it is not prerequisite to change our behavior while learning. So how we learn? So we will take an example of cycling, how people train themselves to master the skill of cycling. So they definitely make many of the mistakes while cycling. And in another example also, swimming. So people go to swim and he master many complex things simultaneously, but by only reading or about or doing the theory of swimming one can't able to swim like that. So these theoretical things and practical things go hand in hand or simultaneously. So and while learning we make many mistakes. So without making mistakes, as Julian Bert in 1972 says, you can't learn without goofing. They have made a study regarding second language learning, and they come to the point that we can't learn without goofing, without making certain mistakes. So making mistakes is not a problem while learning anything. It is also true to the language learning. Let us proceed. While learning language, we must know about how most of the people learn mother tongue, how children acquire their mother tongue or first language, L1. So think of any baby and you will come to the notice that first of all the skill of listening starts. Many of the utterances of mother is captured by the our baby, and then he or she tries to uh, make imitation of some of the sounds. So the speaking comes next. Then when the children went to school or some pre-primary education or in homes, after certain age they start reading, and then lastly the skill of writing is being mastered by the children in the case of real one or mother tongue. And then after that he comes or she comes to know about the different rules operating in the case of language. It is true in different kind of skills even. So this is the actual, and it is not in the case of English or Marathi or Gujarati or any other Indian languages or French or European languages, I mean, or even the other languages. But in case of any mother tongue, the sequence of skills is like that. It begins with listening and proceeds to speaking, reading, and writing, and some other complex skills. Now, the language learning. So, we make many mistakes, mostly in the case of foreign language or second language learning. Many people think of writing first, many think that reading is the most important thing, while some of them advocate by speaking you will master your language, and listening many times remains at the last, or very less importance is given to the listening. But it is well said that if you wanted to be a good speaker, you must be a good listener. So listen first, and we have to listen as much as you can to the different varieties of English or foreign language, and then so we make a mess with all this sequence. As in the case of acquisition, we have a listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and we then children go for the rules or grammatical rules here, I say. So we have to, if we are listening too much, that language you wanted to excel at or master, uh, so you must keep in mind that you have to listen, you have to then try to speak, and you have to read and write. Yes, simultaneously even you can do all these things, but listening cannot be neglected. Again, if you wanted to be a speaker, then only theory can't help you. Many people says that we learn these kind of books, and we recite or mug many words like that, and we mock even, but you have to develop your own kind of style. While it's not a listening style, you have to. And what exactly is listening, I will come to these things again, but let us proceed further first. So when I say the listening, speaking, reading, and writing, then we have to a little where I have to elaborate what is listening. Actually, there are two words in English, hearing and listening. So hearing basically is anything comes to your eardrums and goes inside, is called as a hearing. But in the case of listening, we intentionally pay attention to the sounds and you wanted to comprehend them. So ultimately listening goes to leads to understanding or comprehension or cognition or knowing in general. So that is listening. So when you listen carefully or pay attention, when we say, so it is comprehend or cognize these things. And then we have a speaking. So speaking can be developed with by practice only. So you have to practice these things. And yes, reading, even we have different kind of loud reading and silent reading. We have two basic kind of types of reading. So while in a silent reading you develop the meaning and insightful things, whereas while loud reading you develop your pronunciation and other kind of things. So lastly, the writing skill, you have to make practice of all these kind of things. So what about these rules or grammatical rules? So these are simple rules. When you, for example, um, listen to the expression like a table eats a mango. So you may laugh, how can table eat or anything, and here a table eats a mango. So it's not possible, right? So we say it's error. So this is the rule that eating is the thing that animals or humans or some animate things can do. Even some trees can eat like that. So but we can't ascribe the eating to the uh, table or non-animate things. So again, a tree barked. So barking is the things goes with dogs, not with tree. So like that. So these are the things, and what comes first, what comes later, what can be followed by what. These are the things are called as the rules or grammatical rules. Then now we come to the point that learning new words. So how to learn new words? How do you think we learn new words? Yes, definitely by listening, by speaking, by reading, and by writing. So we learn with all these four skills. How? Actually, we have first listening and third reading. These two skills are receptive skills, that we receive something and we process this in a brain, and then we have output skills, so productive skills, that is speaking and writing. So see, uh, listening and speaking are auditory messages, while reading and writing is visual. So with our eyes we perceive these visual symbols written on a page, or maybe we will perceive these written symbols by reading them, and here we listen to the sound waves, uh, that is the auditory symbols, and we produce similar kind of symbols, auditory symbols, while speaking. So you while listening to the word, for example cat is a word, we listen the sound of a cat. For example, three different uh, kind of sound like k, a, and t, that is cat, in a sequence, and we then process these three different speech sounds, and then we with this sound image we make an image which denotes to the actual thing in the world, maybe a cat as animal. So this is the word we listen first, then process, then understand or know, and after that we try to speak the same kind of word like cat. So this is the whole process. And while reading also, the similarly we perceive many of the symbols in particular language. I'm not talking about English here, but of any language, and then we after reading we produce similar kind of symbols on writing, maybe scribing by hands or maybe typing. So that is the writing. So basically everything is processed in the brain, and then so when you learn new word we listen, then we process, then we try to speak, or you may be reading the similar word, or we are reproducing the word in your writing. So it means that we receive this kind of new words and then we use through your writing or speaking. So listening and reading is receptive, you receive the new words and you then reproduce through your speech, that is by speaking, and through your writing, that is in your writing. So usage or using the new words is also kind of making these words as a part of your permanent memory. So in this way we learn new word, any kind of words, I mean. And so again, so that is the things that about interesting things about words. So while learning new vocabulary, new words, first of all we have to know these fundamentals, the basics of how we, why we learn language, how we learn language, how the languages are being learned, what is learning language means, and what is the importance of the words itself, and like that. So thank you very much. Thanks for watching this video.